Our sick police force, the Illawarra, in chronic condition. School road safety concerns continue to mount. And the Hawks finish fourth and now target the 36ers.
News Late Edition with Geoff Phillips.
Good evening. Lake Illawarra and Wollongong Police Commands are key players in a growing state row over police sick leave and numbers. Critics say the issue threatens community security and police force morale.
The issues of police numbers, sick and stress leave had the Police Minister and his Senior Deputy Commissioner looking for a med-cert today at the Lake Illawarra Command. As many as 12 police officers are on sick leave and 30 are on restricted duties on any one day. For skeleton rosters, the Wollongong Patrol is rated one of the state's worst. Mr Costa today committed the government to reaching a minimum staffing level, even if it means overtimes. The shortfall also to be made up by 1,700 new officers joining the service by May 2003.
And we'll be allocating those officers to those areas where there is a greater difficulty in terms of long-term sick and also in terms of increasing community pressure on policing resources.
He adds some officers hired before 1988 are exploiting benefits.
One can only sit back and ponder as to how it is that we continue to be short of frontline police.
There's also intense scrutiny of skyrocketing crime in suburbs like Port Kembla. Again, police numbers the basic issue.
The police themselves are under-resourced. When we go to the police station there, they tell us to go and see our Member of Parliament.
We can't replace policing. We can't employ our own police to police the area, so we have to look towards the Police Minister to put adequate resources in our region to be able to combat those significant problems that the community is facing.
Ironically, Lake Illawarra Patrol Commander Inspector Gary Dodson, back from extended sick leave today, referred all inquiries to the New South Wales Media Branch. Region Commander Morris West, who's also rostered off sick today, was unavailable for comment. Peter Andrea, Win News.
A year out from the state election and despite having some of the safest margins in its 4 Illawarra seats, the Labor Party seems set for another factional row. With reports former Ironman Jonathan Crowe intends to challenge left-winger Colin Markham for pre-selection in his new seat of Wollongong. Mr Markham was dumped into Wollongong after losing endorsement in Keira, now held by former Wollongong Lord Mayor David Campbell, protégé of the man widely regarded as the right's power broker, Federal Labor MP Stephen Martin.
Colin Markham, like all the other local members, works very hard in his local electorate. He also works very hard in his role as Parliamentary Secretary for Aboriginal Affairs.
Crowe is remaining tight-lipped, refusing an on-camera interview today, confirming only he has joined the party. One of the nation's leading arts groups could get an icy reception from the federal government after a desperate plea for more funds. The Bundanon Trust admits it can't continue its present level of operations without a major funding injection.
Prior to his death, legendary Australian painter Arthur Boyd gave his delightful Shoalhaven River property Bundanon to the people of Australia so it could become a home of the arts. The Bundanon Trust was set up to run the property and an Artists in Residence program. Despite hefty government assistance in the past, the Trust now says it needs more money.
Well, I would have thought they would have gone through the channels with their local MP and perhaps asked me what I thought and perhaps asked what the community thought. They're asking for a lot of money.
Former Prime Minister Paul Keating gave the Trust a grant of more than $5 million. The intention was the interest on the group's investments would be its major source of income. But now the Trust says it's battling to maintain its current level of activities.
I understand that Arthur Boyd is an icon, and I think the Bundanon Trust is an icon, the location is an icon, but there is a limitation to how much money can go into something.
The Trust reportedly wants $500,000 this year and $1 million a year after that. Before going into bat for the Bundanon Trust, Mrs Gash wants to hear from constituents as to whether they believe there are other projects, like Nara's cash-starved art gallery, which may also be worthy of federal government assistance. Graham French, Win News.
Police are appealing for information into last Friday's fatal truck crash on the Hume Highway near Berrima. A 22-year-old man from Karangi, near Coffs Harbour, died when he was thrown from the cab of a tabletop truck when it was hit in the rear by a northbound V-double around 5 a.m. The 39-year-old driver, also from Karangi, was trapped in the wreckage for more than 80 minutes before being taken to Bowral Hospital with head injuries. Anyone who saw the accident is asked to contact Crime Stoppers. Meanwhile, new concerns about road safety near our schools today, with residents, councillors and traffic experts meeting to discuss problems outside Holy Spirit College.
The tragic death of 10-year-old Alex Crabb Carroll, hit by a car in Busy Lake Entrance Road, has already prompted traffic changes. At Woonona High, students are forced to share a one-lane bridge with cars and buses, and today there are new concerns outside Holy Spirit College.
It's not just the high school kids, we've got young kids that walk to Bellambi Primary that also utilise this road with the 8 buses of a morning, 8 buses of a night and over 100 cars here. It creates a big problem.
This corner is used as a bit of a racetrack in the evening, and that adds to a sense of the community feeling unsafe. So it's school safety, but more general community safety and community wellbeing.
I think we've come up with a couple of alternatives that will still work very effectively, and that has to be designed and costed, and I don't think it's going to be anywhere near the 400,000 mark of the original one.
Stop signs will be installed at the Rothery Street, Corley Street junction in the interim, much to the delight of the Residents Association.
We've waited 10 years, we've been involved, the Residents Association. We can wait another couple of months to see what's going to happen, and we're not going to give up the fight if it doesn't happen.
Alan Clark, Win News.
The future of the protracted BHP Port Kembla wages campaign was today placed in the hands of the State Industrial Commission. After months of bitter confrontation for little progress, Justice Walton began taking evidence from BHP Steel legal representatives, hearing also the arguments of combined steel unions. Workers are seeking a 16% increase, BHP offering around 10% over 3 years. The situation for the unions is risky, with members voting to abide by the Commissioner's decision. Coming up next on Win News, a warning as the flu season approaches and remembering the Bulli mine disaster. The 115th anniversary of the Bulli mine disaster has been marked by a special memorial service honouring those who lost their lives.
81 men and boys lost their lives in the 1879 mine disaster at Bulli, leaving 50 widows and 150 orphans. That massive loss of life has been commemorated with a special ceremony at the old Bulli miners' cottage, 115 years since the tragedy.
And when you go back in history and have a look at the number of men who have been killed in mining accidents, it crosses all barriers.
The ceremony seen as an opportunity to reflect on how dangerous the mining industry can be and the need for all involved to be ever vigilant, despite industry requirements to remain economically viable.
The best safety officer in a coal mine is the mine worker himself. If he doesn't think it's safe to do it, you don't do it.
The day also providing the chance to say thanks to the late Mrs. Pat Nash, a Sikh dedicated to the woman who was the driving force behind the Bulli miners' cottage and making it what it is today. Sean Burns, Win News.
The Wingecarribee Shire Council has officially opened its $45 million Mittagong Regional Sewerage Scheme. It is the biggest capital works project ever undertaken by the Shire, with 3,000 Shire residents now connected to a modern sewerage system for the first time. 3 potentially deadly strains of the flu are expected to hit us within the next few months. Doctors have been given supplies of the flu vaccine to immunise people in high-risk groups.
Last year, Australia was hit by the New Caledonian, Moscow and Szechuan influenza viruses. This autumn and winter, they're expected to come back, prompting health authorities to issue tens of thousands of doses of the flu vaccine to GPs.
Healthy young adults will cope well with the flu. It'll lay them up for a while, but they'll get better.
It's the elderly and people with a chronic illness who are concerning doctors. Catching any of these strains is potentially deadly. Indigenous people over 50 are also at risk.
Fevers and coughs are the main symptoms, headaches, and basically being quite debilitated during the illness.
Those who are in the identified risk groups can receive the vaccination from their doctor at no charge. Karen Manning, Win News.
Meantime, Illawarra area health staff have again fronted for the influenza vaccinations. For the 3rd year running, the service today provided staff with the vaccinations free of charge. The campaign is designed to keep those at the front line of healthcare physically prepared for the onset of winter. Many regular anglers took to Lake Illawarra on the weekend, but there were also some novices, a group of disabled people experiencing the excitement, many for the first time.
It was a chance to drop a line and try their hand at something new. But before you can catch a fish, you have to know the basics, like rigging, tying knots and casting. 32 people taking part in the fishy business, all about getting out and giving it a go.
Today we're aiming to give the people here a good day, to teach them how to fish, teach them good fishing practices, how to return prohibited sized fish back to the water, and later on we're giving them a barbecue.
Meantime, the Illawarra has again thrown its weight behind the annual Oxfam Community Aid Abroad Walk Against Want. While for some it was more like rolling than walking, the annual fundraiser drew a strong crowd to Stewart Park. And still on fundraising, the annual Red Cross Calling campaign has received a welcome shot in the arm. Wollongong University students hitting the pavement in an inter-house challenge to raise cash for the cause, while the Red Cross Bear was on hand to encourage Fig Tree Hotel patrons to support the annual appeal. $1 from every red drink and 50 cents from every beer sold, making sure Red Cross will call again. Sean Burns, Win News.
The stock market followed the Dow Jones down. The All Ordinaries closing 8 points lower. BHP lost 17 cents to close at $11.21. AMP shed 8 cents to 19.06. Telstra was up 1 cent to $5.28. The unlisted IMB, no change, solid at $3.10. Now with a big grin on his face, Sport is next with Matt Russell, and a happy finish for the Hawks, Matt.
Geoff, now the playoffs begin. Also the Wolves beaten, and the little man making the big plays for St George Illawarra. The Dragons will be without second rower Lance Thompson for 4 to 6 weeks after he tore a quadricep muscle in yesterday's 24-16 win over Penrith. Halfback Willie Peters again starred for the Dragons, collecting his second Players Player award in as many weeks.
The Dragons travelled to Penrith chasing their first competition victory, and it wasn't a start they'd hoped for.
Will there be a collision? There is, and a knock on.
They quickly got into gear, centre Mark Gasnier showing his strength for the opening try.
Gasnier and the Dragons are on the board first.
The Dragons lost Lance Thompson with a torn quad muscle after being put into the clear by halfback Willie Peters. Peters continued to play havoc with the Penrith defence, collecting a wayward pass to scoot away. The clever number 7 outsmarted 4 Panthers with some smart footwork to set up a 10-point lead.
He's away again. What happened? They must have all fallen over.
We knew we were going to be in for a tough game, and it was probably a bit of surprise that the tries, the amount of tries we got in that first half.
The Dragons extended the margin with tries to fullback Reece Simmons and Matt Cooper to go to the break in front 22-6. The Dragons' only second-half points came from a penalty goal, and despite a late Penrith try, won 24-16.
We self-destructed a little bit, didn't we, in the second half, and we knew that they'd come out, they had nothing to lose, and we probably failed in that regard.
We're happy to leave Penrith with 2 points under our belt.
Meantime, Thirroul winger Brent Gross has starred for South Sydney in its first win of the season. Gross bagged a try and had a hand in several others for a 30-22 victory against Canberra. The Bunnies don't meet St George Illawarra until round 19. The Dragons to play the Bulldogs this weekend. Brett Rodwell, Win News.
After a roller coaster regular season, the Hawks have qualified 4th for the playoffs. It's the same spot they launched last year's grand final win from. It was a good finish for the defending champions, who were 6th before they beat Melbourne and Canberra upset West Sydney. Many see 6th spot as the death seat, requiring a series win against the Titans. The Hawks had to beat Melbourne to avoid it, and did, winning 111 to 93.
Extraordinary effort defensively. The Tigers have been playing really well, and I thought we executed quite well offensively.
The win snaps a 7-game losing streak. Matt Campbell starring with a high percentage, 29 points.
I honestly thought, as co-captain of the team, that we were still together, and it was just a matter of time before we'd break it.
I didn't give him a day off, and I've been down that road before. It's made no difference, and I wasn't prepared to go down that road, whether they liked it or not.
The hard work showed in so many areas. The Hawks allowed the opposition to shoot at just 33%, won the rebounding 62-44, had 6 players in double figures and boasted a busy bench. Mike Chappell scoring 17, Matt Shanahan shutting down Andrew Gaze and grabbing 12 points himself.
See our guys step up off the bench as well. It's quite exciting just to even get that in the last game going into the playoffs.
Generally, you've got to give them credit for playing a pretty good game, I thought, and a lot of contributors.
The Melbourne win made Friday's 8-point loss to Victoria irrelevant. 4th was the highest the Hawks could have finished. Unless Melbourne and West Sydney cause playoff boilovers, Wollongong will advance to the semi-finals, even if it loses to Adelaide. That series bringing back memories of last year's playoff thriller.
I feel good going into a 3-game series, having to play 3 games within 5 or 6 days. I think it suits our personnel, utilising the bench and the fitness of the guys.
Wolves rookie Greg Charland tasted the highs and lows of the National Soccer League last night. After scoring an equaliser, he conceded a goal that broke his side's back. The Wolves watched as Melbourne scored one of the slickest goals this season. The ball travelled from goalkeeper to striker Joel Porter with just 1 stop in between. The 1-0 scoreline remained at half-time. Needing to find the net next, pressure from Norm Sekalovsky created the opening for Stuart Young's 5th goal in as many games. The Wolves weren't level for long. 2 minutes later, Toto da Costa gave Dean Anastasiadis little chance. The Wolves' faint playoff chances flickered a little brighter when Greg Charland levelled for a second time. Hero 1 minute, villain 2 later. Charland slipped on the ball and lost possession. The result, a goal to Steve Horvath. Jazar Suleimani completing a 4-2 win. The Wolves hoping to spoil South Melbourne's playoff push in the last Wynn Stadium game this season on Thursday night. Milton's Sarah Kasoulis and Wynoona's Jason Cram are off to the Commonwealth Games. Cram was 3rd in the 200-metre freestyle final at Nationals and will swim the 4x200 relay in Manchester. With Ian Thorpe and Grant Hackett also in the relay team, Cram has a great chance to win more Commonwealth gold. He's also been named for the Pan-Pacific Championships in Japan. Kasoulis is amazed with her Commonwealth Games selection, silver in the 50-metre backstroke, earning the call-up. Kiama's Rachel Coffey unluckily missed all teams despite finishing 2nd in the 100-metre butterfly. The region's surf lifesavers have collected a swag of medals at the Australian Championships. Bulli's Lily Miller led the way, 2nd in her open iron women event.
After easily winning the quarter-final and semi-final, Lily Miller went into the decider full of confidence. In the opening ski leg, Miller managed to avoid the carnage to be well positioned in the leading pack. After dropping back in the board leg, the 22-year-old showed her surf skills, catching a wave from out the back to bridge the gap to be within striking distance heading into the final swim leg. Despite making up plenty of ground, Miller had to settle for 2nd spot. In the under-19 Iron Woman event, Bulli's Christy Lee Ogilvie also finished 2nd, but was successful in the surf race. On the sand, Helensburgh's Simon Harris was edged out of the national flag's crown. The world champion upstaged in the final, while Stanwell Park teammate Simon Cook finished 3rd in the under-16 event. Also on the beach, Mollymook's Ashley Sheeny performed well in the women's sprint with a 3rd placing. Bulli's Cara Langendam, another standout, edging out Mollymook's Melinda Howard to win the under-16 flags and placing 2nd in the sprint. Other locals to perform well included Matt Heisley, who took out the under-19 surf belt race. Brett Rodwell, Win News.
Wollongong javelin thrower Andrew Curry has completed a clean sweep at the Telstra Grand Prix Athletics Series, winning all 5 meets. Curry produced a throw of 80.93 metres in the final event at Adelaide and will now prepare for the National Championship starting in Brisbane on April 11. So close yet so far for trainer Bede Murray, forced to watch in agony as Universal Prince and Victory Vane were pipped at the post. The Kembla stable stars will now head in different directions, hoping to end Murray's run of bad luck in big races. Universal Prince flies out on April 8, this his last Australian run before rich World Series of Racing events in Hong Kong and Singapore. The Prince was controversially scratched as favourite before last year's Melbourne Cup, won by Ethereal. In the BMW Stakes, she was back again.
Universal Prince is gunning him down. Universal Prince went to Rain Gauge. Rain Gauge still in front. Ethereal late. Universal Prince put his head in front. Ethereal flying. Did she get there?
The photo told the story. Bede Murray showed the disappointment.
You know, the other mare got him right on the line. Congratulations to her, you know.
Murray had another chance, and a very good one, with Victory Vane in the Golden Slipper. She had a beautiful run and looked the winner.
Victory Vane in front, Callaway Gal for Queensland. Callaway Gal, Plum Shay and Schwarz here, but Callaway Gal, Scott Maslaya grabbed them, I think got there.
Again, a photo finish denied Bede Murray.
Oh, well, it's a great day, but it could have been a little bit better.
Murray hoped for a better finish with Victory Vane in the Group 1 size Produce Stakes next Monday. If I keep watching, will they win those races?
The look on Bede Murray's face says it all. All the weather details after the break. Then Goulburn turns Cub capital. A late dose of summer again today, but there is rain on the way. To the satellite photo, cloud is approaching the far south ahead of a trough in the west of the state and an upper air disturbance southwest of Adelaide. Tomorrow the trough should remain over the inland as the upper air disturbance moves into the west. Cloud is expected to increase across most of the state with rain and isolated thunderstorms spreading east. Temperature-wise, Wollongong and Bowral both got to 26 degrees, Nowra hit 27, 24 degrees for Ulladulla and Maria, 23 at Narooma. The best was Bega with 29, Merimbula top 25. The forecast for the Illawarra and the Highlands, rain and isolated thunderstorms developing. It will be warm with fresh north to northeasterly winds. Looking ahead, rain and isolated thunderstorms through until Friday. For the south coast, rain periods and isolated thunderstorms, a mild to warm day with moderate northwest to northerly winds swinging around to the south direction later. On the water, seas running at 1 to 2 metres on a 1 metre swell, with the first tide tomorrow a low at 12:33, the first high of the day just before 7. Temperature-wise, 16 in Wollongong overnight to a top of 26, the Highlands 11 to 22 and the Shoalhaven 13 to 26, Bateman's Bay 13 to 24, similar in Bega 13 to 25. More than 700 Cub Scouts from across the state have spent the weekend enjoying the wild, wild west during their biannual Cubberette.
Managing 3 days of activities for hundreds of 8 to 11-year-olds is no mean task, but 400 leaders and parent helpers managed it at a gallop.
We calculated that we'd increased the population of Goulburn from 4 to 5% over Friday, Saturday and Sunday here. I think that's quite an incredible feat to do that to a population of our inland city in this, the year of the Outback.
Building and racing wagons, pumpkin seed spitting and an obstacle course, just some of the activities on offer.
And we're here to, of course, this weekend celebrating Harmony Day, which encourages all of us as Australians to take a stand against racism, prejudice and intolerance.
Not that there were any signs of that. Friendship the key, as the multitude was fed again and again thanks to the efforts of an army of volunteer cooks, all gathering yesterday to celebrate Harmony Day.
You see all those flags waving on the oval, all those Cub Scouts surrounded by their leaders and all wrapped in a harmony wrap is just something that I'll remember forever.
Alan Clark, Win News.
That is good. You and me equals us. And that is the news from across the region for this Monday night. I'm Geoff Phillips from the Win News team. Good night.
This has been a Win News presentation from Australia's largest regional television network.